From Orlando, Florida and Tulsa, Oklahoma, welcome to the 1330 Podcast with your hosts, Keith Neighbor and Brent Bailey. Pulling from nearly half a century of experience, Brent and Keith share unique wisdom and proven insight to build the leader within you. Interact with us now on Facebook and Twitter at 1330 Podcast or email your questions and comments to 1330podcast@gmail.com. The 1330 Podcast starts right now.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to December.
We are punching the holiday season right in the throat, aren't we?
It's time for all the malls to be open late, and people are just out and about and getting all their Christmas preparations started. But today is December the 4th, and it's hard to believe that 2017 is in its last month.
Unbelievable. Time flies when you're having fun.
Totally is. And
time flies when you're not having fun.
So you're here for another 1330 Podcast with Brent Bailey.
And Keith Neighbor.
And we're talking about some just leadership things that Keith and I have learned over the last, especially 5 years, but in the long run, 25 years. And as we've both been in ministry.
Well, and over our lifetime, Brent.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seasoned individuals right now. We're not.
We are.
We're
We're
not pups
salty
anymore.
We're not salty.
I'm sometimes a little salty, but it's
But we were talking last time about the difference between some people that come in and burn real bright and burn out and go right off
shooting
the cliff,
stars as they were,
and then some people that come in and get bewildered, because it's not what they thought it would be. And we were talking last time about how we've put people in positions, and it was on us because they got in over their heads.
Yep.
And I've seen that happen, and I've also experienced. In fact, in 1 week, I had both sides of the same coin. I had one couple that came in and talked a big game, and really, I mean, they were gonna have our church at 300 people in 6 weeks. They were ready to do it.
I appreciate that enthusiasm.
And then another couple who literally never could understand what we saw in them.
I have a hard time appreciating that.
Why do you want us to do that? Why are you thinking that we're grateful for the opportunity, but do you really think that we could do that? And I'm like, yeah. And we spent lots of time together.
So how did you deal with that though? Where you've got somebody that
week.
But you've got somebody that, look, you see the potential in them, but they don't see the potential in themselves, or somewhere in there. I don't know. I think that's where it's at. Is how I'll ask the question to you is that you see something in them that they don't necessarily see. How do you convince somebody that they can do that? And that
I don't know that you ultimately ever can until it sinks in on their own. You can give instructions and you can give a lot of encouragement, which is what we did.
Opportunity.
And you give opportunity, freedom to do it. It's not. If you're expecting somebody to fail, and I think it's somebody that used to work with us that said, if you're always looking for something to be wrong, you always find something wrong. So you got to give them opportunity to do something.
Yep.
But at the same time, they have to be willing to grab a hold of it and look at it themselves and be looking for it themselves. And I think that's the thing that'll really dictate it is if you give them, do everything you're supposed to, you give them the space, you give them the freedom, you give them your ear to ask questions, and you give them the right advice. And, if they are never looking at themselves to really try and get it, and all they're doing is robotically doing what you tell them to do, or it never internalizes, that's a big red flag that you need to be looking for.
Is part of the problem with that maybe their past experience is dictating their future or their now with this, and that they're either looking at some point they're going to reach for the cheese and the mousetrap is going to snap, or you're going to hammer them over something, or is it that they're expecting you to do something for them?
Well, and Steve, that's the thing. I think all right, with the one couple that was really never understood why we asked them to be what we asked them to be, I think that they had a very romanticized version of what it was going to be like. They're one of the people that you come in and this is what I'm supposed to do, and this will just happen. and they would try it. And and it's almost like the old saying, Master Yoda told Luke, you can't just try something.
Yep.
But they would come in and they would just try it because this is what I learned in class, or, and this is what Pastor Brent says to do. So, but they never really believed that it was going to do anything.
Right.
It was almost like, if it happens, wow. And so that was really frustrating, but at the same time, it was, I don't want to sound like, they were pitiful. I don't want to sound that way, but it was pity in my heart. Like, could you just look at it maybe just a little bit sideways, instead of just the straight on way you're looking at it, because it's black or white for you. And really there's 1,000 shades of gray in the middle of this.
Right.
And that was really hard to get them to try and turn that corner, and ultimately they just never did. They were expecting everything for them to just happen. It was if it's God and see, that's where your danger. It's dangerous to go and say, well, if that's what God wants me to do, then this is just going to happen. And when you go and read throughout the Bible, that never happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, God, there's a lot of things that God wanted people to do, and
years later,
I was going to say, was it ever easy?
I don't know that any of them. I mean,
these people were getting killed left and right for what they believed and what God told them to do.
Hebrews talks about they died seeing the promise afar away.
Yeah.
But they just did everything they were supposed to do. And so, that was really discouraging to watch them, and I'm just going to be honest with you. We invested heavily. Finances, we invested opportunity. We'd have, coaching sessions. We'd have them over to the house to just, not to even talk about business, just to spend time together and clock hours together. And they never really moved past this is what we've been asked to do phase.
Right. They never owned it.
They never did. And I think mentally they did, but heart-wise they never did. And so that was harsh. That's hard to do. And really, honestly, you can't really make somebody get it. You can't force somebody to get it. So there's no way to force somebody or make somebody see themselves the way you see them. And there's just some people that they're always going to look through life with that filter. That doesn't mean you don't give those kind of people opportunities, because you and I both could sit and start telling stories and name names of people that came to us with that kind of mentality and just were so overwhelmed by, I can't believe I'm volunteering here.
Yep.
And I can't believe I'm doing this. And we would ask them to do something. They go, are you sure you want me to do that? And then they ended up being brilliant.
Yeah. Yep.
So you don't really know what people's response is going to be. And thank God we have the Holy Spirit, but at the same time, we're human and we can't discern everything.
Well, I was going to say, I can tell you that I think that we've experienced way more successes with people than failures or disappointments, or however you want to. Failures is kind of harsh, but I think that we failed.
People that just didn't, just never really grabbed it.
Yeah. But so with your people that you had that were like that, did you fire them, so to speak?
No.
Did you let them go? Did they leave? Are they still there? Did you reassign them?
They ended up resigning on their own.
Okay.
And that was heartbreaking to me. I mean, at the same time, some leaders would be like, well, you had a personnel problem, you should have handled that. Yes, I agree. And there was some things there was an adjustment that was going to have to be made. But at the same time, it's almost like they were accidentally doing some things right. They didn't realize they were doing it, but it was the natural side result of taking my advice. So you know how when you tell somebody to do something and they go to do it, they're expecting this one thing to happen. But when you give that advice, that is going to happen, most likely, but then all these other things are going to happen. And so these other things would happen that was a side result of following the instructions, but they never saw that as success. To them, that was just an accident, and that's just something that's good, but we didn't mean for that to happen. Almost like we used to call them bullcrap shots in pool.
Oh, yeah.
Just banked off.
Slop shot.
Yeah, slop shot. And so I would tell them, say, look, guys, you see this over here? Look at how many people do consider this, the relationship they have with you, that's a big deal. Or they are volunteering in the church. I mean, in our church, we got 100-ish, 115. I kid you not, there's 57 people that volunteer in our church. That's
awesome.
Almost half the congregation.
That's awesome.
All
That's
right.
an unbelievable percentage of people.
Now, I mean, people go, well, you're just not that very big. But I'll take 50-some% in it all day
Well,
long.
I've talked to a lot of pastors of churches that are about that size, that the percentage of people or the number of people that they have volunteering is closer to 20.
Yeah, well,
And that's church-wide. Children's, youth, ushers,
they
parking
didn't,
lot.
but they didn't see that as a success because there were still people who would not show up, or there were people that would just be on the schedule and
Right.
flake,
Yeah.
or somebody else, somebody would leave the church that they would consider to be very important because and it's like, yeah, but you don't need to worry about that. You need to worry about, well, yeah, but so it's almost like the things that they only considered important. So we would try and tell them, say, look, no, you're getting success that we want you to get over here, but it didn't happen. So it didn't matter. So we didn't fire them. We tried to encourage them, tried to get them to focus on that, but to them, they viewed themselves as a failure. And so it was heartbreaking when they just finally gave up and just said, we can't do it anymore. And that was really heartbreaking and hard because they never grabbed a hold of it.
So do you think that there's something else that you could have done with them?
Honestly, don't know what it could have been. I mean,
well, and I'm just asking that question from the standpoint of, we always want to self-evaluate and look at the things that are going on around us, and there are always those people that are around. I mean, I'm not exactly the ray of sunshine all the time right. with everything. I tend to be a little cynical about things and tend to. The way my thought process on anything is, let me figure out the problems that we could have doing this rather than the successes. I know we're going to have successes, but what are the problems we're going to have? And I'm able to move past the problems to get to the successes. But there are people that only see the problems and they never see the successes. And I think part of that can come down to, and I'm not, and again, I mean, you and I talk about this stuff all the time, and I was right in the middle of all of this with you when this was going on. We talked extensively about it. But there are times where, I tell people all the time, we need to think of reasons to get cake, man, and eat it.
Yeah.
And celebrate things. We need to I'm not telling you to make things up, but when we look at the stuff that's going on, especially when your thought process isn't as positive. When we get a group of people together to celebrate anything, it makes everyone feel good.
Totally.
And it makes them feel like that we as a group did something bigger than ourselves.
Which we did. Me and you had this formula when we were working together.
Yep.
We'd have people come to the house and he'd have
volunteer
parties.
Yes.
I did took the same model at my church.
Yep.
People come over, let's cook out, let's just,
hang out and be friends.
And at my house, not
Yeah.
at the church, but as a personal thing. And so we did that. It just unfortunately didn't pan out with them the way that I wanted it to. And with that, we're out of time. So we're going to pick up here. We got one more before the end of the year. We're going to pick up here next week. And then as we turn towards the new year, we got a whole new topic we're going to bring.
Awesome.
So anyway, hit us up on Facebook and Twitter, 1330 Podcast, or give us a shout on email at 1330podcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram at 1330 Podcast. Have a great December, everybody. We'll see you in 2 weeks. For Brent Bailey,
I'm Keith Neighbor.
God bless. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us for the 1330 Podcast with Brent and Keith. We want to hear from you. Find us on Facebook and Twitter today at 1330 Podcast, or email us directly at 1330podcast@gmail.com. Join us next time for another 13 minutes and 30 seconds geared to change you into the leader that you and those who follow you want you to be.